So grip strength is extremely important for your overall performance and even your health. It's been linked to mortality rates. But here's something that perhaps you didn't know about grip strength, that much of it comes from your little finger. It's logical and understandable to assume that when it comes to grip strength, bigger must be better, that the index finger and the thumb must contribute the massive proportion of grip strength, and that your little finger probably doesn't really do much. In fact though, this couldn't be further from the truth. Try gripping onto a rope as though you're going to climb it, and use just the top 2 fingers. You'll find that it's really hard to get a stable enough grip to really hold on. Now try do the same thing with the little finger and the thumb, and you'll find you have a much more secure grip. One study found that when measuring grip strength via a hand dynamometer, the ulnar digits were responsible for 34 to 67% of grip strength, with the mean average being 55%. This is something that was actually well known by the samurai, and apparently if a samurai betrayed their master, what would then happen as punishment is that they'd have their little finger cut off. This might seem odd, but the samurai knew that by removing the little finger, they'd be able to very effectively impair the samurai's ability to fight with a sword. It would be much easier to knock it out of their hands with a well-timed blow. So why is this? Well, the ulnar digits are controlled by a separate muscle called the flexor carpi ulnaris and the ulnar nerve. But that power in your little finger isn't available in isolation. Just using your little finger, you won't be able to exert that much strength, and that's because the little finger gets most of its power by working in tandem with the other fingers. The second finger, as we've discussed, and also the thumb. Think about it, we call them opposing thumbs. What do they oppose? Well, the most opposite digit is the little finger, and by clenching them together, we're able to make a nice closed circle. Remove either one of those and you have a weak link. If you try performing pull-ups with your little fingers sticking up in the air, you're going to find that a lot more difficult. Now try doing the same thing with your index finger sticking up in the air, and you'll find it's actually not as difficult. Another interesting bit of information is that the strength that the little finger contributes is disproportionately greater on the dominant hand than it is on the non-dominant hand. What's going on there though is anybody's guess. So what do we do with all this information? Well, the obvious thing to consider is just that we need to train our little fingers, and it's actually very easy to overlook this. If you're using a grip trainer, for instance, and squeezing, you might find that the angle of the grip trainer makes it easy for the little finger to play a much smaller role. So make sure you're not doing that, and consciously make sure to contract that little finger. Likewise, if you're using fat grips or just squeezing the bar whilst performing other movements, really involve the little finger, really make sure that it too is playing a part. This also tells us it's really not good to injure the little finger, so look after it, make sure you don't bend it backwards when playing sports, and if you do, give it ample time to recover. And don't lift anything too heavy over your head. Whilst you're in that condition, you're much more likely to drop it on your face. What's more is that you should really think about the position of your grip when training, meaning the way that you use your thumb and fingers together. In particular, wrapping your thumb back around and over your fingers when lifting weights or hanging from rings or a bar will help you bring your wrist and pinky into a stronger position. Simply changing the position of a single finger, moving the knuckle of your pinky finger on top of the bar during a pull-up for instance, can meanwhile alter the muscles primarily being worked. In this case, you're adding flexion to the wrist and you're increasing your lat activation. Likewise, when you train the farmer's walk, try bringing the pinky knuckle under the handle of the weight to again increase flexion in the wrist. This will train the grip more effectively than if you give no thought to the position of the fingers and the wrists. Training wrist flexion this way is actually incredibly valuable when it comes to preventing injury, but make sure that you're training with both a supinated and a pronated grip, as well as a neutral grip, to avoid imbalances, which can actually make things worse. And if you build this up, you'll find that things like rope climbs and muscle ups become much easier and far less likely to snap your arms off. So there you go guys, that was just a small little tip. I hope you found it useful and interesting. If you did, then please leave a like, please comment down below, helps me out immensely. Do you have any quick tips to share about grip? I've got much more on the way, of course, more quick tips like this one, lots more in-depth videos looking at things like VO2 max and lung capacity coming very soon, balance training, polymath series on the way. So if all that sounds good, then thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.